Most desks held boring junk. Then I opened a bottom drawer that stuck like it hadn't been used in years. Inside was a sealed manila envelope labeled "Training" in thick marker. It felt too heavy for paper. I tore it open. The leasing office was empty except for vanilla plugins and a little speaker playing lobby jazz to nobody. I wasn't supposed to be digging through their desks. I was a contractor, badge on a lanyard, there to pull door access logs and write a report the property manager could wave around at the next resident meeting. The network closet was locked, the on-call manager wouldn't answer, and I was sick of standing there like an idiot. So I started hunting for a spare key. That drawer fought me like it hadn't been touched in years, like it was trying to keep a secret. There was a USB stick, a cheap body cam, and a stack of printed stills. Women in elevators, women in stairwells, women unlocking doors. Each photo had notes, keys visible alone, habit, headphones. The body cam had a memory card taped to it. I shouldn't have looked. I looked anyway. At first, I tried to make it make sense. Some awful little situational awareness packet. Look how easy it is to tailgate. Look how distracted people get. But the stills weren't generic stock photos. They were close, intimate in the grossest way. One had a unit number caught in the elevator mirror, crisp enough to read. Another was taken from just off someone's shoulder while she leaned down to unlock a door. The notes weren't written like policy. They were written like trophies. My hand started to sweat against the paper, and I realized I'd already left fingerprints all over it, which somehow made me feel dirtier. I knew a couple faces. Not friends, just tenants I'd passed earlier near the mailroom. One with a teal backpack, one with a dog leash looped around her wrist. That meant whoever made this wasn't pulling images from the internet. They were in the building, in the halls, close enough to breathe the same air. I didn't want to plug in the USB. I did it anyway because that's my whole job. Stick my nose into systems and see what the hell is hidden behind the doors. I used my work laptop because it was open and because, stupidly, I still thought the right move was documented. The drive popped up with folders named like dates and floors. No incident reports. No case numbers. Just neat little sets like someone was collecting bugs in jars. The footage wasn't porn or some edgy shit. It was worse. It was someone practicing control, walking right behind strangers, whispering their names, filming their hands, filming their apartment numbers, laughing when they didn't notice. The last clip showed a door cracked open from inside a unit, dead quiet, like the camera was waiting for someone to wake up. That word, training, clicked into place in my head in the worst way. Not training like be safe. Training like get comfortable. Training like learn what people do when they think they're alone. I watched one clip where the camera followed a woman from the package room to the elevator. She had headphones on, keys out before her floor even lit up. The voice said her name softly, almost friendly. She didn't react. The camera lingered on her hands, then on the keypad, then on the apartment number, then on the tiny gap when her door shut. It made my skin crawl because it wasn't chaotic. It was methodical. Whoever filmed, it wasn't chasing a thrill. They were building a routine. On another clip, the camera rode the service elevator, filmed the floor buttons, filmed the CCTV monitor reflection like a checklist. I felt this hot, stupid anger rise up, the kind you get when you realize you've been working around something rotten and you didn't smell it until it was right under your nose. Then I hit that last clip again, the cracked door. The camera didn't move. It just waited, the darkness behind the crack like a throat. All I could hear was that hum and the breathing, and I kept expecting a foot to step in a frame, a hand to push the door, anything. Nothing happened. The clip ended mid-breath. I backed away from the laptop like it could bite. I kept thinking about the building's security team, two guys in black polos who spent most nights scrolling their phones at the lobby desk. They waved at residents. They knew names. They could follow anyone anywhere and call it work. I didn't know if this came from them or someone above them, but I knew one thing. If I left it in that drawer, it would go right back to waiting for someone to wake up. So I moved fast. I snapped photos of the stills with my phone, crooked, shaky, because I wanted at least something that wasn't on their network. I didn't download anything. I didn't have time to get cute. I just wanted the physical kit out of that office before the next person with keys walked in. I shoved everything back into the manila, taped it shut with packing tape from my cart, and wrote the date and time on the tape like I'd seen cops do. My heart was pounding hard enough that my hands kept fumbling the tape dispenser. I remember thinking, this is going to look insane in court, if it ever even gets to court. I bagged it and locked it in my car. When I came back, my badge didn't work. The reader flashed red and beeped like I'd never been there. I tried again. Red. I tried the other door by the trash chute. Red. I stood there in the hallway staring at the little red light, and the place suddenly felt different. Less like a building and more like a machine that had noticed a loose bolt. The security camera above the door had that tiny IR glow. It wasn't blinking. It was just on. I felt it on my neck. I called our dispatch line. Straight to voicemail. I called my supervisor. He answered too fast, breathless, like he'd been waiting on my name to light up. I told him my access got killed, and I'd found something in the leasing office that wasn't part of the audit. He cut me off and told me to step outside. Not the lobby. Outside. I walked out with my face set neutral, like I was just taking a call, because I didn't want to give the cameras a clip of me panicking. My supervisor met me outside, already sweating, and said the client revoked access. He told me to hand over anything I found. He didn't ask what it was. He didn't say, "Are you okay?" He just held his hand out, palm up, like I was returning a screwdriver. I asked him why he was already talking like this was a retrieval, not a question. His eyes flicked to my car, to the lot, then back to my face. That tiny look was the whole story. I told him I was taking it to police. He tried the calm voice first, the corporate father voice, telling me I was out of scope, telling me I didn't understand client relationships. When I didn't move, he switched to threats. Fired. Zuit. Arrested for theft of client property. He said the building had lawyers on retainer, and I had... What exactly? I said, loud enough for him to hear himself, that the client was filming women's doors and calling it training. He flinched like I'd said a name I wasn't allowed to say. He stepped closer and lowered his voice and told me, like he was giving friendly advice, that people get hurt when they make accusations they can't prove. That was the moment my fear turned into this cold, clear thing. If he truly believed this was nothing, he'd laugh. He'd ask to see it. He'd call it a misunderstanding. Instead, he wanted it back, immediately, before anyone official touched it. I said no. Not dramatic. Just no. I got in my car, locked the doors, and watched him stand there staring through the glass. He started typing on his phone. Calm as hell. I drove off before he finished whatever message he was sending, because staying one more second felt like letting him write the rest of my night. Before I pulled out, I popped my trunk one more time just to make sure the envelope was still there, because paranoia had already moved in like it paid rent. It was black evidence bag on top of my tool case, taped shut, stupidly obvious. I slammed the trunk, hit lock twice, then hit it again because my hands wouldn't stop. As I backed out, my phone lit up with messages from my supervisor that got me in fast. Nothing that would hold up in court, just pressure, just guilt, just that vibe of, you're about to ruin a lot of people's nights, so maybe don't. Then an unknown number called. I let it ring. It called again. I could practically feel someone on the other end listening to my breathing through the speaker. I looked in my mirror and saw a dark SUV roll out of the lot behind me. Could have been anybody. Could have been a resident. Could have been nothing. My stomach didn't buy that. I took the first turn, then another, not even heading toward the highway, just testing if it would follow. It did. Maybe coincidence. Maybe not. I wasn't waiting around to find out. I drove like an asshole through 2 yellow lights, hands locked at 10, and 2 like I was taking a test. Try not to picture that cracked door. Try not to picture my own front door as the next habit on someone's notes. I drove straight to the police station. By the time I got there, my trunk was open. The bag was gone. In its place sat my own work laptop, turned on with a folder named after my home address. I came home, did my routine, and set my boots by the door like always. I was tired in that numb, pissed off way where you're moving on autopilot, still checking the lock twice because you've lived alone long enough to know nobody shows up fast if something goes wrong. Keys in the bowl, mail on the table, leftovers in the microwave. I ate standing up, rinsed the fork, wiped the counter, and plugged my phone in like it was part of breathing. I remember looking at the boots before bed because they were still damp and gritty, and I thought, I'll clean them tomorrow. I kicked them together so they sat even. I shut the bedroom door like I always do. I fell asleep hard. The next morning, one boot sat on the kitchen chair, upright like it got placed there, not tipped over, not half fallen, not dangling off the edge, balanced perfectly, toe forward like somebody staged it. I stood there with my coffee going cold, and my brain did this frantic scramble for excuses. Maybe I carried it in there half asleep. Maybe I tripped and set it down without thinking. Maybe I'm losing it. I tried to put it back the way it was, and it kept sliding because the chair's seat's slick and rounded. It took me a bunch of tries to get it standing. That's when my stomach tightened, because it meant whoever put it there didn't do it by accident. I told myself, fine, you were sleep drunk, you did it, stop being weird. I set it back by the door and left for work with that stupid image stuck in my head. All day, I kept replaying the moment like it was a puzzle I could solve if I stared long enough. When I got home, I tried to reset everything, like if I did enough normal stuff, it would cancel the weird stuff. I cooked. I watched some trash. I lined the boots up again. I checked the lock. I checked it again. I remember thinking, stop being dramatic, you're a grown adult, it's a boot. But I slept light, waking up angry at nothing. Next day, my bathroom mirror had a clean swipe through the steam, finger width, right at eye level. I didn't remember touching it. I'd taken a hot shower, fogged the whole mirror, and there was a single clear line like somebody wanted a little window to look through. I leaned in and touched the glass. It was cold and dry where it was clear. Not a towel smear, not my handprint, just one smooth pass. I wiped the whole mirror hard, then turned the hot water back on and tried to make the same swipe with my finger. Same height, same width, same pressure. Mine looked like crap. Uneven edges, wider at the bottom. You could see where my finger skipped. The one I found looked clean like it had been done with a glove or a nail or something that didn't leave skin oil. I stood there dripping on the mat, staring at my own face through the fog, and I felt stupid because I couldn't even explain why it scared me. It wasn't blood. It wasn't a threat. It was just personal, like someone had been inches from me, choosing a spot right where my eyes would land. I did the predictable stuff after that. I checked the windows. I checked the chain. I checked the closet. I checked under the bed with my phone light like I expected a stranger to be curled up under there like a cat. Nothing. No missing things. No open drawers. No smell of someone else. That's what messed with me the most. If someone breaks in, you usually get chaos. This felt tidy, like the mess was the point and the rest was a courtesy. I kept arguing with myself while I walked around my own place. If you tell someone, you sound insane. If you don't tell someone and something happens, you're a dumbass. I called my landlord and forced my voice to sound casual. I didn't say, someone moved my boot and touched my mirror because that sounds insane. I said the lock felt loose and I wanted it checked. He acted annoyed, like I was inconveniencing him with my paranoia. Maintenance came the next day while I was at work. They left a little tag that said the strike plate was tightened and all good. I stared at that tag for a long time, angry and embarrassed at the same time, like I'd reported a ghost and gotten a receipt. I bought a cheap door alarm and stuck it on crooked because my hands wouldn't stop shaking and I refused to acknowledge that. I told myself it was temporary, just until I calmed down. I slept like shit. I woke up to every elevator thunk, every pipe tick, every neighbor cough through the wall. I'd roll over and stare at the closet door like it might breathe. In the mornings, I'd feel hung over without drinking. I'd tell myself, you're being a bitch. You're turning a boot into a horror movie. Then I'd come home and check the lock again anyway, and I'd hate myself for it. On my day off, I stayed in. No coffee run, no errands, just me in the apartment and that constant low hum from the hallway. I cleaned because cleaning is what you do when you can't punch the thing that's messing with you. I I watched TV and kept pausing it to listen to nothing. I kept walking to the door, putting my eye to the peephole, seeing the same empty hallway, and feeling no relief because empty didn't mean safe. It just meant whoever it was knew how to leave quietly. Around 2 p.m., I heard my front door handle click once, then stop. No knock, no hallway steps leaving. Just that single careful click like someone tested the latch and froze. Every muscle in my body tightened. I killed the TV sound and sat there holding my breath like a kid hiding, even though I hated myself for reacting that way. Seconds dragged. I didn't hear the elevator. I didn't hear someone jogging away. I waited, silent, because suddenly the idea of making noise felt like telling them I was home. Finally, I got up and moved to the door on the balls of my feet, slow enough to not rattle anything. I looked through the peephole. Empty. Same beige hallway. Same flickering light. Nobody there. I stood with my face pressed to that little lens, trying to hear anything at all. Nothing. No chufle, no fabrique, no brefe. I opened the door fast anyway because I'm an idiot. The hallway was empty, but my welcome mat had shifted like someone had been kneeling on it. It was shoved forward and bunched at the top, the fibers pressed down in a darker patch like weight had been on it, and then slid. I stepped out barefoot and looked both ways. Nothing. No door closing. No elevador. No neighbor peeking out. Just that dead hallway smell and the hum. I picked the mat up and shook it like I expected a key or a note to fall out. Nothing. I checked my knob for scratches. Nothing. The alarm inside hadn't gone off. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. It made me feel like I was being handled gently, like whoever this was didn't need to force anything. I went back in, locked everything, then stood there staring at my own door like I'd never seen it before. Anger came up fast, hot, and stupid. Like, whoever the fuck you are, stop touching my things. Stop coming to my door. Stop making me feel crazy in my own place. I almost called the cops right then, and my mouth went dry because I could already hear how it would sound. Someone clicked my handle and moved my mat. They'd ask if anything was stolen. I'd say no. They'd tell me to keep my door locked. End of story. And if I was wrong, if it was nothing, then I'm the paranoid asshole who wastes everyone's time. That's the trap. You keep swallowing it because you're afraid of looking stupid, and meanwhile somebody else gets to do whatever they want. That evening I kept the lights on. I ate without tasting it. I kept replaying that click, trying to decide if I'd imagined it. So I tested the handle myself once just to hear the sound again. Same click, same stop. It made my stomach drop because it meant the sound I heard was real, and it meant somebody's hand had been on my knob in the middle of the day while I sat 5 feet away pretending I wasn't scared. I went to bed with the knife on the nightstand and felt ridiculous doing it, like a kid with a fake sword, but I couldn't make myself put it away. That night, I woke to the softest sound, plastic creaking. Not a step, not a bang, just that slow flex like someone squeezing a phone case. My eyes snapped open and I saw a glow that didn't belong in my room. My phone wasn't on the charger. The charger cable lay empty where I'd plugged it in. The light came from inside the closet, like a screen trapped under clothes. My throat tightened so hard it hurt. I didn't even sit there and debate it. I slid out of bed and my feet hit the cold floor, and I went to the kitchen because my brain went weapon now. I grabbed a knife because I didn't have anything else, and I needed my hands to stop shaking around something. I came back and stood there staring at the closet door like it was going to swing open on its own. The plastic creak came again, tiny like pressure. I yanked the closet open. My coat swung. Nothing else. No body tucked behind them. No shadow crouched low. Just fabric swaying and hangers clicking together. My phone sat on the floor, angled up, camera app open, recording. The red dot was on. I snatched it up so fast I nearly dropped it. My thumb hit the screen and my skin went prickly all over like my body realized what my brain was seeing. I stopped the video. The last frame was my face asleep, shot from above my bed. The angle wasn't possible unless someone had been standing over me. I learned tricks. I'd call at work, then at home, then at their kid's number if I could find it. I'd act nice, then flip hard. I kept notes on people like they were animals, cries, angry, proud, weak at night. I told myself it was just business. It wasn't. It was power. The job was a fluorescent box that smelled like burnt coffee and stale sweat. Training was 2 days of scripts and excuses. They taught us to sound helpful while we cornered people. Slow your tone, speed up theirs, repeat the amount, repeat the due date, never answer the question they're really asking. My boss walked the rows and tapped the whiteboard with a marker like he was keeping score. If you hit your numbers, you were hungry. If you didn't, you got dragged into a glass room and talked to like you were a bad dog. I didn't have money to be proud, so I got sharp. I got mean when it worked. We fought over accounts. People would snag a good one off your screen the second you stood up. Management pretended not to see it because payments still came in. I started keeping better notes than anyone. Not because I'm smart, because I liked winning. That's the part one hate admitting. I tagged people in my notebook like I was scouting a fight. Who got loud, who went quiet, who tried to sound tough, who folded when you mentioned consequences. I wrote stuff that should have made me stop, like hates being embarrassed, protective of kids, breaks if you stay silent. I told myself it was strategy, like I was playing chess. It was just me getting off on control. One case stuck because she never begged. Single mom, overdue medical bill, always calm. Most people spill their whole story like you asked for it. She didn't. She'd confirm her name, confirm the balance, and say she couldn't pay right now. Same tone every time, like she had a wall I couldn't climb. It pissed me off in a petty, personal way. Calm felt like she was looking through me, like I wasn't real. So I pushed anyway. I pulled her social, her old addresses, her employer, her emergency contacts. I did the skip trace crap like it was detective work. I found an old job, an old apartment, a cousin's number tied to the same last name. I printed it and circled it in red like that made it clean. I told myself it was allowed because the system let me do it and because my manager loved initiative. I sent verification letters to places they shouldn't go because it shook people loose. I did it on purpose. I knew what those envelopes did. They weren't supposed to scream debt, but they didn't have to. A letter shows up at a workplace and people notice. Somebody makes a joke. Somebody asks questions. A supervisor sees it. The person on the hook feels exposed. Exposed people pay. That was the whole philosophy on the floor, just dressed up in policy language. After the first letter went out, my manager hovered behind my chair and grinned like I'd done something brave. A coworker bumped my arm and called me savage. I smiled and kept dialing because it felt like being good at something for once. The week it snapped, she called back once. Not to beg, to tell me, flat and controlled, that I had no right to contact anyone else. I snapped back. I told her the law didn't care about her feelings. I told her I'd keep verifying until she handled it. I used that fake calm voice that makes you sound above it while you're being cruel. When I hung up, I didn't feel proud. I felt wired, like I just shoved someone and wanted them to shove back. I logged the call and typed, unmoved, possible week at night. Then the call started coming back to me. Not threats, just silence. My own number calling my desk line after hours, ringing until voicemail. First time I saw in the missed call log, I blamed the phone system. Second time, my supervisor joked that I had a stalker. Third time, it hit at 9:47 p.m. and a coworker texted me a picture of my desk phone glowing in the dark office, my extension flashing. He made it a joke. I tried to laugh. My stomach kept doing this little drop like my body knew something my brain wouldn't admit. I stayed late the next night because I was pissed and stubborn and I didn't want to feel hunted in my own stupid job. After hours, the office changes. The air gets colder. The building creaks. The vending machine hums like a trapped insect. My desk phone looked harmless in the dark, but the ring cut through everything like a blade. When it lit up with my own number, my skin prickled anyway. I answered fast, angry, ready to unload on whoever was fucking with me. The line clicked like someone put a call on speaker, and I heard my own voice from earlier that week. Me pressuring her, word for word, recorded clean. Not muffled, not distorted. Clean enough that I could hear the little fake softness I used right before I got mean. I sat there listening to myself say things I'd already half forgotten saying, and it felt like being forced to watch yourself on video, doing something you can't undo. Then a second track layered over it. My apartment door opening, my keys clinking, my footsteps. My mouth went dry. Those sounds weren't generic. That was my key ring. That was my stupid door that sticks and then pops loose. That was my pace down my own hallway. Under my bullying, I heard the fridge open. I heard a drawer slide. I heard myself exhale like I do when I'm tired. Someone had recorded my life like it was evidence, and they were playing it back under my worst moments like a punishment. I slammed the headset down and hit redial. It called my own extension. I called the number for my cell. It rang once and went dead. I checked the system logs like that would help. Caller ID showed me, every time like the building itself was pointing a finger. I ran to the window and looked down into the lot. My car sat crooked with the hazards blinking like someone had just parked it. Orange flashes in an empty dark. I hadn't moved it. I hadn't even stood up. I even ran downstairs and hit the remote. The headlights answered like nothing was wrong. Inside, the driver's seat sat a notch back from where I keep it, and the dome light was on. The clock on the dash was blinking like it had been unplugged and plugged back in. I didn't touch anything. I shut the door and stood there in the cold, listening for footsteps that never came. I grabbed my coat and bolted. I called building security on the way out. No answer. I called IT and left a message that sounded insane even to me. I called my manager because my brain reached for authority like a kid. Straight to voicemail. I drove home too fast, imagining my apartment door open, imagining my notebook laid out like a threat, imagining her calm voice finally breaking into laughter. My apartment door was shut, deadbolt turned, like normal. No broken frame, no praí marks. That made it worse. I went in with my phone light up and my heart punching my ribs. Everything looked fine until I noticed little things wrong by half an inch. A kitchen drawer not fully closed. A chair angled off. My keys on the counter when I always drop them in the bowl by the door. I checked the bedroom, closet, bathroom, even behind a shower curtain like a cliche. Nothing. No footsteps. No breathing. Just the building settling and my own blood roaring in my ears. I sat on the couch with all the lights on until morning, staring at my call log like it could explain itself. Twice that night my desk line called again. Once my cell buzzed with an unknown number, and when I answered it was dead air, like someone held the line open to listen to me swallow. I kept thinking about her, not in some guilty, noble way, but in that ugly way where you try to pin your fear on a person so you don't have to admit you earned it. At work the next day, I looked wrecked. My manager didn't ask why. He asked why my numbers dipped. He told me to stop playing nice and lean harder on the employer angle, like he didn't hear that word as a weapon. I told him someone was calling my extension after hours. He rolled his eyes and said it was a prank and I should toughen up. When I pushed back, he started talking about my rent like he knew my life, like I owed him my spine. I snapped and told him to go fuck himself. It wasn't brave. It was just the first honest thing I'd said in months. I quit the next morning. No speech. No 2 weeks. I signed the paper, turned in my badge, and walked out with my headset in my bag like it was contaminated. HR tried to make it tidy, asked for a reason, asked if I wanted to reframe my goals. I couldn't even explain it without sounding guilty and crazy at the same time. My manager followed me to the elevator and called me soft. I didn't argue. I just wanted out like I was a place you could reach. When I got home, every drawer was open and my collection notes were spread on the floor in a neat fan. On top sat a printed spreadsheet of me, my habits, my schedule, my week at night. Same format I use on other people. Same cold handwriting.